ladies broke down and they cried very bitterly. And I even blew the shofar.
How old were you?
In 1944, I was born in 28, 16 and a bit.
We've just got to take a break and change tapes. Interview with Rabbi Michael Mandel. This is tape 7. Rabbi, you've just told me about conducting the Rosh Hashanah service in 1944. I'd like to now go forward to where we got to, and that was around the time that you were rounded up in the race course. You said that you were rounded off and then sent off to work. Please go on.
Well, we were broken up to small groups and sent to, we were marched off to work to, first of all, from the race course we were taken over to the Danube. We walked across the bridge, and eventually I was assigned to a Volksdeutsch, do some work for him. And I picked up one day, I was there for several days. One day I picked up a half-rotten tomato and ate it, and he got very angry and he beat me up real hard. How dare my filthy mouth into his beautiful tomato or something like that.
What work were you doing for this man?
Weeding and carrying some, with a wheelbarrow, carrying some building material. He was doing some addition or whatever to his shed or something.
Were you working on your own with him?
At that time, yes.
Did you ever consider trying to escape?
No, there was no question of it. There was no possibility of it. It would not be a feasible proposition.
Why not?
Because surrounded by Volksdeutsch and who knows what, it was a place unknown to me beforehand. I would not contemplate at that time, and nobody in his right mind would contemplate escape at that time from there.
Where were you sleeping at night?
Where would I escape? Where would I escape?
Where were you sleeping at nights?
At night, at that time, I was in a shed. There was a shed there, and I was sleeping there.
How long did you do that for?
For a few days at that time.
What happened next?
What happened next? I had to report eventually to my supervising person, whoever that was, and had to report, and then was taken as a group. We were taken to a place called Budafok, and there we were working with bricks. Bricks had to be carried from the where they deposited the bricks, and from there to the building site. I do not know what that was. And we were taken again to Ferryhead, to the airport. and back again to Budapest. It's a few miles away, a few kilometers away. But we were brought back, and we had to march with all our equipment and all our stuff and everything, marching, and seldom given us any respite, any rest, just to rest. Not talking about food anymore. Food, as a matter of fact, sometime during that 3-week period, we did have some rations, but for 9 days we didn't. I didn't. My group didn't. Especially not the group that I was in. There's a special büntetet csoport. There's the punishable group to be punished if anything went wrong or anything did not please them, so they took it out on us.
How many people?
And they did, I think there were 7 of us. 3 in a smaller group, sometimes just took 3 of us. They targeted the young ones because they were hoping that the elder ones, the older people, will have pity on us and crack and give away. But thank goodness it didn't happen. We did not know if somebody disappeared. We knew about it, that we did not see them there anymore.
Did that happen?
It happened several times. And I don't know the fate of any one of them. Not those that escaped during that time. We were also outside of Budapest in one of the outer suburbs type of thing, satellite town. And there was a huge, what would you call it, like a hangar-like building. And we were allowed to go in from the rain. We were very grateful for that. Because sometimes we had to just sleep under the sky, the rain coming over us. It was not a holiday spot. It was not a maiden's dream.
Did anybody get sick?
Several old people, middle-aged people got ill. They had diabetes, they had heart problems. They were not having their medications with them or ran out of it. Several of them were clobbered to death with the butt of the, what they call it, the guns.
Did you witness anything like that?
Yes.
What did you see?
All of us witnessed. We were just standing there. We were taken out of the group and clobbered. And they were just out to do us as much harm and as much injury and as much pain and suffering as they could.
Who is they?
The guards called the Keret. Keret, K-E-R-E-T, Keret. The guards, the group of guards that were constantly with us, and they were changed at one stage approximately every 4 hours. In other words, they were on duty for about 4 hours, and they were picked up by sort of military tenders, trucks, taken away, and another group, a group came, and the same tender took them, the others away.
What nationality were they?
Hungarians and Germans. Hungarians and Germans on the 2 sides of the column. There were 6 abreast, And row 1 had a Hungarian on the one side, then a German on the other side, then a German and a Hungarian, and then the other way around, whichever way it was. One to one, not necessarily in every, not in every row, but several of them. And they came, they were well fed, and they were well rested, and they just did whatever they wanted to do with us. We were absolutely free game.
Did you suffer at all, personally? To any beatings?
Yes, but not as much as the others that I have seen with my own eyes. If we worked extremely hard and he was in a good mood, the particular guard, we were all right. Far from all right, but we were okay. But if he was in a bad mood, if he got out to the wrong side of the bed or whatever, if his girlfriend didn't kiss him hard enough the night before, so he took it out on us. Filthy language, foul mouth. Calling our mothers harlots and prostitutes, and ourselves bastards, and all the dirty names under the sun, anything they could find. And they could find.
How long?
They were well versed in that.
How long did you do this for, this work?
Well, all told, between the 16th and the 8th of November, I think it was.
What happened then?
That day before and the evening before, we got into a huge commercial wine cellar outside of Budapest, one of the satellite towns of Budapest, the Buda side, the right side of the Danube. And under pain of death, we were not to leave the various room or whatever you would call it, halls or partitions or whatever. We're not allowed to move out of it. They were huge on hinges, the doors, the gates or whatever you would call them. They were more like gates than doors. Very big, quite tall, 6 to 8 feet, or 7 to 8, 9 feet, something like that. And when we were herded in there, we were given one bucket for a group of people. I don't know how many were there, but there were quite a few, several dozen. One bucket, and we were not allowed to go out. There was some sort of toilet around there, but we were not allowed to go to that one. So many people had defecated into their own pants and urinated into their pants. There was just no escape from that. You can imagine the stench, you can imagine the feeling, how we felt, sticky, gooey and all that. If you went out into the corridor of the place, you could just as easily have done it for the last time, because they would shoot you without stopping you, without saying stop. They shoot, and then they perhaps say stop. So when the morning came, we were, I did not defecate in my pants at the time, but others did. Some of them did. We had some little bit of food that day. I think it was the day before. Yeah. And we came out. It was a very, very dark sky, clouded. And rain came down, first small bits of rain and then quite heavy. And we were going to be taken. It turned out to be, I heard about it afterwards, it turned out to be that that group in which I was, we were going to be taken to Vienna, to the Vienna road, to be taken to Germany. By that time I was so fed up and so disheartened that I didn't care for anything. I said to myself, if I get a bullet, so what? Suffering will be over and everything will be solved. It didn't matter anymore. I wanted to live if I could help it, but that was my calculation. That was a risk-taking, whether I will survive it or not. And I said, well, I'll risk it. If I succeed, fine. If not, so what? Can't be helped anymore. I had no money, I had no food, I had no strength, did not hear of my family at all. I was very, very dejected at that time. And so anyway, we started to walk towards Budapest, and at a certain spot I said to the people on my right and left, I said, throw me to the side of the road. And they did. Now, it was quite a risky business.
What do you mean, throw me to the side of it?
As if I would be collapsing and they just take hold of me and chuck me out on the other side, put me out there. And they had to march on. And when I saw that they're all gone, one of the guards came over and checked me, but I had enough sense to stick my hand into the mud, into the rain, cold, rainy mud. And he touched my hand. It was cold, obviously. He murmured something like, good, one less, something like that. And the rain pelting down on me, I was sprawled out like that. And I waited, thinking that when they were all gone and the column moved away, I'll get up and when we were nearing Budapest, the environs of Budapest, so I somehow will get away. And I waited, which seemed interminable for me. And then after a while I thought to myself, well, that's probably safe by now. And I calculated that it might be all right. So I got up and started to walk. And believe it or not, I caught up with my own column. And when the guard saw me, fortunately I had the good fortune of not removing my yellow star. I had a ground sheet on wrapped around my shoulder, and it was partly covered, but I did not remove it. And that was just as well, because if I had removed it, it would have given them the idea that I wanted to escape, which I did want to, but that would confirm it for them. So when he saw me coming, he challenged me, and I said I was left behind, and I just managed to get. So he beat me up and threw me back into the column.
How did it come about that you actually caught up with them and without?
Because they were given, which was not very frequently, but they were given a rest to sit down in the mud there, then and there, just to have a rest. And that's when I caught up with them. They were given this rest, and by the time they probably left about an hour before from where I was, and then, or more probably. And my calculation was that they must be well and past now. The danger is over, or the immediate danger is over, and I can go. But I caught up with them, and I had to go with them. But then I still had the same frame of mind, and when we reached nearer, one of the Hortimikloskört there, it was a round circular road or whatever. When I reached that, or a square or something like that, I said again to two fellow members there to put me out again on the roadside. This time I simulated death. And as a matter of fact, one of them came and shot at me.
One of the
guards. One of the guards came to check on me, and just to make sure, double sure, he shot at me. And as a matter of fact, there were 3 holes in my jacket. I had a sort of a battle dress top. One was the fold, which because of the fold, it was 2 holes in it, and one was the fold was in such a way that it made only 1 hole. So I had those holes in my jacket, but I simulated death, and they left me there for dead. And an underground character came, must have been underground characters, without a word, without anything. He gave me a sandwich, probably his own. He sort of appraised what's happening there, and he gave me that sandwich, and I was most grateful for it. He most probably was either a social democrat or a communist, one of the two, working for the underground. And then I took enough courage, walked to the nearest tramway station, tramway stop, and hopped on. It was early morning. I hopped on a tram, but I had no money. But somebody on the tram, when the what do they call it? The person who sells the ticket.
conductor.
The conductor came and asked for the ticket. He paid for me, not knowing who I am. He saw that I'm a refugee. And I gave the appearance of not eating and being bedraggled and all that. I looked like a refugee from Eastern Hungary. And so anyway, with the tram I traveled to Luzóca 1B, but I had nowhere else to go. That place, by that time, I was not permitted to be there. I was not supposed to be there. I was already, how shall I say, to be in the workforce, in the labor camp, and not there. So I rang the bell. Out came the caretaker, a lady, a very nice person. She had 2 daughters. One daughter was married to a Jew and was taken to Ukraine, and he froze to death. He never came back. Somebody from the same group that he was in came back and told the mother, and told his wife and the wife's mother, I mean. Anyway, this lady came to the door, to the gate, and it was shut, of course, properly before, and she opened the door and she said, I let you in, but you and I know that your life and mine is in danger. I will allow you to stay here till 2 o'clock, but then I'm afraid you must go. Because at about 2:30, regularly the supervising woman, who was a female of the canine species, she would come and supervise that everything is all right. She was a fascist, she was an Holocaust party member, and she was in charge of that section of the street. So I could stay there till 2 o'clock, and after that I would just have to go. Now Mrs. Weinberger was very kind, and her daughter-in-law, they allowed me to go up. I took off all my clothing. She gave me her son's clothing for me, and it was a fuel wood heated hot water service, and we burnt all my clothing because it was filled with lice. And she gave me clothing of her son. The one daughter, very sick now, she's still alive, lives in Ramat Gan, Rehov Beit El. I spoke to her husband, but she could not be visited. She was too sick. Terminal cancer, I think. So they fed me, they clothed me, and at 2 o'clock I just had to go away, which I did. I shaved and did all sorts of things. I was absolutely filthy.
What was their name?
Mrs. Weinberg.
The caretaker.
The caretaker's name I can't remember. Maybe from Stibajuri I could find out, but I can't remember.
And what happened next?
Then the most remarkable story happened, that I went towards the place, the Singer Palace, and I went to the corner of the inner city, the Rákóczi and Körút corner, and there happened to be a raid asking for identification cards. And I had, of course, nothing, absolutely nothing. And then came a German officer and pulled me by the ear and started to beat me. Then he said to me, he says, "Don't worry, it's me, it's Erwin." Erwin happened to be the nephew of my auntie, of Seren's sister's son. He was a social democrat, he was with the underground, and as such, the underground got him German uniform and all the rest of it, and he took me to the underground restaurant, which was a restaurant like any other restaurant, but it was theirs. Underneath, in the cellar, was a bakery,